Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barreto. Let's take a look at the headlines. A close relationship between the THA and the Ministry of Environment and Water Resources. Government to engage in a flood alleviating project in the capital city. 'Tis the season to be jolly, spread goodwill and cheer. Thank you for joining us. A stateless person is someone who is not considered a national by any state under the operation of the law. Trinidad and Tobago has welcomed discussions that seek to properly treat with this situation.
Trinidad and Tobago is doing its part to assist the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees in promoting the prevention and reduction of statelessness in the region. On Wednesday, fruitful talks were held between Minister of National Security, Senator the Honorable Gary Griffith, and Deputy Regional Representative for the United States and the Caribbean of the UNHCR, Mr. Booty Kale. The discussions were held at the Ministry of National Security and surrounded a number of key topics. These included the Immigration Detention Center in Trinidad, possible recommendations for Trinidad and Tobago and the UNHCR to hold further discussions on the procedures and mechanisms which can be implemented in the country, and the co-hosting of an event with the UNHCR and CARICOM. Other topics discussed were the 1961 Conventions on Stateless Persons, education of refugees, shelters and policies for refugee and asylum seekers, and the Caribbean Regional Conference on the Protection of Vulnerable Persons in Mixed Migration Flows held in May 2013. The UNHCR works closely with 27 Caribbean countries and territories in order to provide support and advisory services to governments, interview and determine the status of asylum seekers, and work with local partners to deliver assistance and durable solutions to recognized refugees. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
In other news, government will engage in a flood alleviating project in the capital city. This as one of the major projects being undertaken as a result of 3 important loans from the Inter-American Development Bank, the IDB. Senator the Honorable Dr. Bohendranath Tiwari, Minister of Planning and Sustainable Development, made the disclosure during last week's post-cabinet media briefing.
Loans approved by the Inter-American Development Bank, IDB, have been allocated for the construction of a linear park that will bridge the communities of East and West Port of Spain, while at the same time alleviate the flooding problem caused in the area. Minister of Planning Dr. Bo Tiwari, in making the announcement at this week's post-cabinet media briefing, says a 1.8-kilometer park will be constructed as the first project funded by the 3-part loan.
This loan consists of 3 parts. The first one is focused on the critical areas prone to flooding in Port of Spain, and consists of $90 million of the $120 million loan. And this intervention will cover the necessary civil works to mitigate flooding events in the area of Port of Spain. And the third part will involve $20 million aligned to finance all the civil and landscaping works for the implementation of a 1.8-kilometer linear park located at the St. Anne's River on the Dry River. The linear park will be designed in conjunction with the catchment analysis and drainage works design, and the river discharge is one of the most problematic areas in Port of Spain in terms of flooding. So what we will try to do is to solve the flooding problem there in the East Dry River area as one of the points.
The minister added that apart from civil infrastructural works, the loan will fund the digitization of the Registrar's General Department.
The second loan is a $20 million loan for strengthening information management at the Registrar General's Department. And that particular loan has to do with the digitization of all Registrar General Department's documents not currently in digital format. The loan will also be used to train Registrar General Department staff in archiving and document restoration. It will design and implement a new ICT system upgrade to facilitate information exchange with its stakeholder institution in order to make it more accurate.
Under the IDB loan, the Planning and Development Ministry is seeking to advance the diversification process here in Trinidad and Tobago. Minister Tiwari alludes that this process will be used as a tool for creating local businesses on a global scale.
The third loan involves a loan of US $18 million to fund the Global Services Promotion Program. Trinidad and Tobago is a country that is very, very committed to the business of diversification, and our government strategy, of course, is to diversify in 7 areas, the energy sector being one, but the other 6 being outside of energy entirely. And a lot of those areas have to do with the services sector. And what we are doing here,
the loan secured is said to be in a total of US $158 million, and the Register's Improvement Project is said to have already begun. Kimberam Calawan, News 4.
News 4 continues right after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. A continued closer relationship between the THA and the Ministry of the Environment and Water Resources involving constant communication is key to the accomplishment of some of the goals WASA has in the pipeline for Tobago. These were some of the sentiments echoed by both entities at the Bacolod Signal Hill Transmission Main Commission, or that should be main commissioning, recently in Tobago.
Minister of the Environment and Water Resources Ganga Singh said the government of Trinidad and Tobago has been focusing on putting the infrastructure in place to deliver services such as power, communication, health, security, education and water.
In the water sector, 2 objectives have been set for Tobago. Specifically, the achievement of a 24/7 pipe-borne potable water supply across the island, and secondly, the achievement of safe and healthy coastal waters.
The minister reiterated that WASA projects will continue in Tobago, with some 45 projects already completed in the space of 3.5 years, approximating to some $71 million. The minister continued that Tobago is closer to the attainment of an unremitting water supply than Trinidad.
Tobago has 67% of the population accessing 24/7 compared with Trinidad of 49%. So when we say side by side, you are in fact ahead.
The minister noted that most of the contractors used on the project are from Tobago, and it is hoped that for the upcoming projects, only Tobago contractors will be used. The Hillsborough Reservoir was high on the minister's agenda, and so he asked of the Tobago House of Assembly, through Assemblyman Handel Beckles, Assistant Secretary in the Division of Infrastructure and Public Utilities, to collaborate with his ministry on the inserting of the Hillsborough Reservoir sooner rather than later. Assemblyman Beckles, who deputized for Chief Secretary Orville London, said he was pleased to be invited to the commissioning. As a Bethel resident, he identified with the water woes previously faced by the villagers.
I grew up in Bethel, where at one point, if there was no water in the village, my father worked at WASA. He was the man you looked to in the village, the WASA man. Why we don't have any water? And so sometimes the water supply would come every 2 weeks.
He said residents would have had to line up by one standpipe that trickled water all night long and tote buckets of water back home.
And so this morning I am happy to look back and to see where we have come now. And I want to applaud WASA for all the efforts they've put on in Tobago and for all the water supply we have now.
With that said, he praised the collaborative effort between the Tobago House of Assembly and the central government on making this major improvement a reality.
The THA is committed to supporting the relationship And I think for all good relationships, we must continue to have excellent dialogue. We must communicate. And Mr. Rafi David, he is committed to that. We get to meet quarterly, meetings.
The new Bacalet Well No. 3 cornerstone was unveiled by the Minister and Assistant Secretary Handel Beckles, along with the WASA team. Minister in the Ministry of the People and Social Development and Member of Parliament for Tobago East, Mrs. Renella Aline Toppin, was also present at the function. Reporting from Tobago, Patricia Nicholson, News 4.
Still in Tobago, in 1992, the United Nations dedicated December 3rd as International Day of Persons with Disabilities. It has been celebrated with varying degrees of success around the planet. The observance of the day aims to promote an understanding of disability issues and mobilize support for the dignity, rights and well-being of persons with disabilities. Celebrations in Tobago are no different from the rest of the world.
On Tuesday, 3rd December 2013, the world commemorated International Day of Persons with Disabilities under the theme, Open Doors, Break Barriers for an Inclusive Society for All. In light of this, technical vocational centers and schools in Tobago for students with disabilities held a mini concert at Gulf City Mall, Lowlands, Tobago.
The concert featured performances by students of the Happy Haven School, the School for the Deaf, Speech and Language Impaired, and the Division of Health and Social Services Disability Unit Technical Vocational Center. Principal of the Happy Haven School, Mrs. Diane Lacroix, gave opening remarks in which she explained the importance of International Day for Persons with Disabilities.
Tuesday, the 3rd of December, International Day for Persons with Disabilities was celebrated globally. This is a day designated by the United Nations to focus on issues that affect people with disabilities worldwide. And it is celebrated annually on the 3rd of December. However, today happens to be the day that we at the Happy Haven School chose to celebrate our cherished students and other persons with disabilities.
She reminded those gathered that the term "the disabled person" is no longer used. Instead, she says it is the person with a disability. The students from the various institutions performed in the same space with the accompaniment of abled persons showcasing talents such as singing, dancing, and even playing the national instrument of Trinidad and Tobago, the steel pan. She noted that the students are as good as any other person and in some cases better off than many. In closing, Mrs. Lacroix served the audience with a quote from the President of the United States, Barack Obama.
Open quote. Every child deserves a decent education. Every adult deserves equal access to the workplace. And every nation that allows injustice to stand denies itself the full talents and the contribution of individuals with disabilities. End quote.
Art and craft pieces made by the students were on display at the event. The pieces included painted kitchen towels, tablecloths, mats, bookmarks, napkin holders, and jewelry. According to the United Nations, 1 billion people with disabilities face physical, social, economic, and attitudinal barriers that exclude them from participating fully and effectively as equal members of society. These persons are disproportionately represented among the world's poorest and lack equal access to basic resources such as education, employment, healthcare, and social and legal support systems. However, commemorating the 2013 International Day of Persons with Disabilities provides an opportunity to promote the need to break barriers and open doors to create an inclusive society for all. Reporting from Tobago, Patricia Nicholson, News 4.
News 4 continues right after the break. Stay with us. In an effort to keep the culture alive, Lopino La Pastora Village Council hosted its La Fiesta de Lopino at Lopino Recreation Ground and Basketball Court. The celebrations consisted of traditional parang, traditional food, a Spanish mass, and a parade and pan music.
The staging of the event in Lopino is all about keeping the traditions alive. And apart from gearing up for the infectious parang, the villagers busy themselves preparing indigenous cuisines like pastels, ham and turkey, roast pork, and an array of meats. The decision to hold this year's fiesta in Lopino was taken by the members of the La Pastora Village Council in collaboration with Minister Douglas, the MP for Lopino Bonnet West, who offered to host a major parang event. Speaking with News 4, the minister says that government has a plan that he believes will improve and preserve local festivals and traditions. Minister Douglas says that the government is seeking to have communities bid to become the home of festivals and traditions such as Parang, Ram Leela, and other such cultural expressions.
What we try to do is to support the national organizations. So it will be the National Parang Association, the National Steel Band, National Theatre, and these organizations themselves have to find ways to use the income or the subventions from the state to find creative ways to develop. But I don't think it's possible for the state at this point in time. I mean, it's probably possible, but right now to invest in every one of our creative festival. I mean, that is something that I would really like to see happen. At every one of our festival receive a significant investment where it can be developed to a place where it's comparison to any international festival.
Parang, the distinctive blend of Venezuelan music and Trinidadian rhythms, is a staple for Trini Christmas. Lopino, historical site, is a major stomping ground for Parang celebrations. So it was not surprising when thousands flocked to Lopino to witness La Fiesta de Lopino. One seasoned Parang servant who came all the way from Brasso Tabakit gave us an exclusive interview into the rise and fall of traditional Parang.
Parang on the whole supposed to sing certain songs that enter home. And with the certain songs, you must be able to enter, the people must be able to understand and welcome you within their home. Right? And if you cannot do that, well then you're not supposed to be into this thing because it's a sacred thing. To enter home, you must sing to enter, which meaning you're asking the people to allow you to come inside, and with God's grace and God's willing, that you enter in peace and leave in peace.
And outside, the kids from the Los Alumnos de Lopino Parang group got ready for their big performance. The authentic Parang music is played using instruments like cuatro, maracas, box bass, a guitar drum, and other light percussion such as the clack-clack and tok-tok. It is a sacred, often upbeat music which promotes joyous dancing. The fiesta also had a wide variety of activities to choose from. There was even a pan orchestra to entertain the masses. The show took place at the Lopino Recreation Grounds and took the form of Free Parang Kulafet, which, judging from the huge turnout, was a resounding success. Parang bands performed on the night before several hundreds of people. Joseph Lopez, News 4.
News 4 continues right after this. Tis the season to be jolly, spread goodwill and bring cheer. And this indeed is what the staff of the Government Information Services did when they hosted their annual Christmas treat for the children of Morval.
The banner of this year's Government Information Services Children's Christmas Party stood boldly declaring that giving is showing love, the theme adopted for the event. It was most fitting as the staff entertained, shared deliciously prepared meals, snacks and drinks. But the event could not end without the man dressed in red and white, Santa Claus, his sole purpose understood by the children as the man with the presents, and he did not disappoint. The children received gifts bought through donations from GISL staff members who were on a special drive to ensure every child in the community received something special for the Yuletide season. The party was held at the Morval Recreation Ground Morval from 3 to 6 p.m. on Saturday, December 7th. Felicia Wilson, More News 4.
The government of Trinidad and Tobago continues to spread good cheer this Yuletide season, with retired public servants being treated to the Office of the Prime Minister's annual Christmas luncheon and retirement function. Officers in and out of the government services were treated to an afternoon filled with music, food and good wine.
Public servants, including those who have retired from government services, have been shown appreciation for their work and support. Permanent Secretary to the Prime Minister, Reynold Cooper, on behalf of the Honourable Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar, treated the special men and women to the Office of the Prime Minister's annual Christmas luncheon and retirement function. While delivering brief remarks, Mr. Cooper told the special guests that he and the Prime Minister, who could not attend the function as she was in South Africa, were very thankful for their support.
Let me thank you for the support that you have given to me during the year. I've been here since 2010, and every year we have this luncheon so that we can show appreciation to the Prime Minister and myself to all your hard work and your support during the year. And for those of you who are no longer with us because you have since reached the age of 60, which means that you have to stop employed work. Doesn't mean to say you have to stop work, just stop employed work. I want to thank you for the support that you have given to me and the Prime Minister over the past year.
Mrs. Joan Mendez, Permanent Secretary to the Office of the Prime Minister, during her welcome remarks, urged the guests to remember the significance of this season.
Let us remember at this time the reason behind Christmas and to cherish peace, goodwill, and the plenteous mercy given to us by God. A gift to mankind, Jesus Christ our Lord. I wish you a God-filled and blessed Christmas and a happy and prosperous 2014.
Felicia Wilson, More News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Thank you for joining us.